Hi everybody, can you hear me now? Fantastic. And can you see the slide? Lovely. Okay, thank God. I'm terribly sorry for the problems at the beginning. I don't know what that was. Really sorry. Okay, let's start. So, hello everybody, welcome to the final live session of the Teaching Listening EVO session. My name is Olya Sergeeva, and I'll be giving a workshop on practical activities for teaching listening decoding skills. And today's session is moderated by Veronica Arena, who will be looking through the chat box for any questions you have, and also if anyone cannot access the chat box, or if anyone has any sorts of issues, please go to our Facebook EVO group or to our Schoology and ask a question there, and she will be able to see it and sort it out. So, without further ado, let's start. And so basically, just to give you a little bit of context, because I know that not everybody is participating in the session on Schoology, this is the fifth session in our Teaching Listening EVO, and for the last 2 weeks we've been focusing on so-called listening decoding activities. And last week Richard Caldwell gave a very inspirational talk in which he explained and demonstrated why decoding activities are very important for the learners of English who are trying to learn to understand authentic speech. And for the last week, people on Schoology have been analyzing authentic speech in terms of actual pronunciation and thinking about how this could be addressed in the classroom. So unfortunately, this is a very big topic, and it cannot be dealt with in 90 minutes and maybe in just 1 week of studying. So this is why we're continuing working with this topic today. And as I've been reading your discussions and your ideas on Schoology, I can see that there are quite a few questions that people have, and I tried to summarize them for myself, and I think that there are 4 main questions right now. So the first one is people feel that they are not sure that the learners really want to work on decoding skills, and people are not sure that this is something that the learners will value. Another issue is that people still feel insecure about analyzing real life pronunciation and helping learners with that. Another issue that I've seen is that people do want to address decoding skills with their learners, and they do feel the need to do that, but they don't know how they don't have enough activities, or they don't know how to fit this into their syllabus and to do this with their materials. So these are the questions that we're going to address in today's session. So basically what we're going to do is, first we're going to watch an extract from an interview with Leonardo DiCaprio, and we're going to again analyze it for the possible listening difficulties that learners of English might have with this extract. And we are going to look at these difficulties and try to figure out if these could be addressed in a consistent way throughout the syllabus, or if it's just here, or and sorry. So yeah, we're going to be looking at how these difficulties can translate into a coherent syllabus. The second thing we're going to be doing is we're going to be watching quite a few recordings of people, of teachers, addressing decoding skills in the classroom. Um, and I hope that this part will really help people picture themselves doing this kind of work in class. And we'll also be looking at where this kind of work could fit into the listening framework that we addressed in week 2. So where do these activities actually happen in the lesson? And I hope that after we've done that, it would be a lot easier for people to actually see how this kind of work could be consistently and logically incorporated into your regular listening class. So we will also look at more activities, so treasure trove of listening, decoding activities. And the last thing we're going to do is we're going to look at a couple of technological tools that make our lives easier in terms of creating listening decoding activities for the learners. So this is the plan. Let's jump right straight into it. So in a second, I'm going to post a link into the chat box. So this is just a 3-minute extract from an interview with Leonardo DiCaprio. And what I want you to do is simply watch this extract and think about the following question. With what level of learners could you possibly use this extract with? So again, just watch the extract and decide what level it would be suitable for. Just give me a second. Here is the link. Can you access it?
So what's the scariest thing you've ever done?
I was on a plane to Russia, and the engine exploded. I was looking out the window, and the entire engine just turned into a fireball. It was right after Sully had that incident happen to him where the geese flew into both engines.
Right, and he landed on the river?
This happened in one of the engines, and I was the only person there that seemed to see this, but it was a flaming fireball. It was all Russian passengers, and I kind of felt like I'd already died and gone to heaven because no one said anything. And I was screaming at the top of my lungs saying, "What the hell is going on here?" And these people just kind of looked back at me, and the stewardess came out and said, "We seem to have a slight problem here." And the Russian guy finally said, "What is the problem?" And I said, "Well, we lost one of our engines." And he goes, "How many engines did we have?" He goes, "Well, we had 2. Now we have 1. And he proceeded to say, that is not good. That's not good." And we basically dumped fuel for 45 minutes and did an emergency landing, and all our tires exploded, and there was 100 different ambulances there. It was on CNN, and that was another bummer.
Wow. Oh, my God. That's incredible.
I feel like I should write a book now.
Yeah, well, no, I'm going to write it.
Okay, so people seem to have finished. Right, here, intermediate and above. I have used it here with strong A2 students. And Jonathan, here I agree that it depends on the task, but here I would say A2 plus students shouldn't be demotivated by this video, right? So, and my point here is probably here, this is something that could be used with fairly low levels. Now, let's have a look at some difficulties that even higher levels might have with this video. So, I'm going to try and play the audio. The first time I play, just type a plus if you can hear it and minus if you can't. So can you hear the audio?
I was looking out the window and the entire engine just turned into a fireball. I was looking out the window and the entire engine just turned into a fireball.
Okay. How about is this the sign of the audio clickable for you? Can you click on it and listen to it? Here. Press on the sign. Is it clickable? Fantastic, lovely. Okay, so it works. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, can you please listen to this sentence and type in what you think should be in the gaps into the chat box.
I was looking out the window and the entire engine just turned into a fireball.
Okay, right. So thank you. Let's have a look at the gaps in a little bit more detail. So here I have, here everybody was more or less correct, although some minor issues with maybe somebody I think left out just, and people disagree about the article slightly. Okay, and first you need to activate the audio sign. You just click on it. It should work. If it is not working for you, then all the audios are also available at this link. Okay, so I have here the first, the words from the first gap, I was, and I have here the dictionary transcription of these words. Can you type, can you click on the audio, listen just to these two words, and type how the actual pronunciation sounds to you? What do you hear? I was, okay. Right, so what you're writing is that you can't hear the second part in the first diphthong here, so instead of I, you're hearing ah, and then there probably is a schwa, right? So so it's not the full pronunciation of was, something like I was. Okay, can you do the same with the next one? What does it sound like to you? Listen and type.
Looking out Looking out.
Okay, right. So some people are hearing p instead of t. Some people are hearing just maybe like glottal stop, no t at all, right? So and there is also linking, right? Now, down, and maybe t is missing here. So it's at least it's very difficult to hear t.
Looking out.
Okay. So the next one again. What do you hear? Type what you hear. Okay, if you're seeing it again, if you can't play the audios here, just access this link. Right. So and here we can see that a lot of people say that the first schwa disappears completely, right? The is also seems to. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Hello? How about now? Can you hear me now? Okay, right. So basically what you're saying is that the first schwa disappeared and the is also disappeared. Okay, and what about just? How does just sound to you? Mm-hmm. Note. Okay, and also maybe second just. It's just here. So again, a schwa. Okay, and finally turn into a. Okay. Turn into. Okay, so what you're saying is first we can't really hear the suffix, right? So d disappears, and there is linking. Turn into. Okay, so let's try another one. Here is another utterance from the same video. Can you play it and type what's in the gaps? Mm-hmm. Okay, so right. Absolutely. And let's analyze the pronunciation of these again. So the first one. It was right. So t. There is. It's very difficult to hear t there. It's not pronounced, and the vowel is a schwa. It was. Okay. The next one. Okay, so t, well, glottal stop at the end, exactly. Your t is replaced with the glottal stop, and there is no sound for the learners to hear. Okay, and the last one. Okay, right. So instead of two sounds, you can hear only one. Okay, with a. Right, and finally, just one more. The same task. Fill in the gaps. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Okay. And some people here seemed, and some people here seem. Okay. Let's analyze the pronunciation. The number 13 there, that. Okay. So again, the schwa in the first word is very, very weak, and t in the second one is replaced with the glottal stop again. Okay, and the last one. Okay, so out of d and t, you probably can hear one sound that sounds more like d to me, right? And the vowel in two is definitely a schwa. So something like seemed. Okay, right. So these were just three three utterances from the very beginning of this video, and I would say that even though the video itself is accessible to A2 plus students, these gaps, the stuff that we were doing, might be problematic even for upper intermediate students. Okay, so which means that lower levels can understand it for gist, but even higher level learners won't be able to understand every single word. So on this slide now, you can see the summary of all the features that we have seen. And I have two questions for you. The first one is, how standard do you feel these pronunciation features are? Is this only the way Leo talks, or is this something that you will hear like on every corner? Pretty standard. You're wrong. I agree that they won't understand every word, but upper intermediate learners would not understand like a high proportion of these words that we have looked at. Of course, depending on their learning history, but for my learners, at least, it's pretty standard that they really miss a lot of these. Okay, so quite standard for US. Yeah, very, very standard. So Basically, what this means is that there are, just to reiterate what Richard Caldwell was talking about last time. So there is this, there are pronunciations that we can find in the dictionary and that the learners might expect. There are sometimes very, very unpredictable, mushy, difficult pronunciation that's represented by the jungle and the cat in the jungle, right? But there is also a big green area, not red, not because a green area of pronunciation that probably this kind of pronunciation wouldn't make it into a course book probably, and or at least would in most course books that I have worked with. This kind of pronunciation isn't focused on, but it's so standard, and in my learning experience, unless I stopped and found out what I was missing, this type of pronunciation is something that people might find it very difficult to adjust to unless we help them with this. So, right, having talked about how standard it is, let's also talk about, do you see any patterns here? Is this like completely chaotic, or do you see some patterns that emerge? British pronunciation is very different from American, yeah, I agree, but we'll talk a little bit more about that. Okay, patterns, so linking, so things like turn into and looking out, okay, there is some linking. Okay, sorry. So the sound D very often disappears. So Mohammed writes allusion of consonant sounds. More than consonants, not any consonant sounds, but two sounds in particular, T and D, often go missing. Okay? Right? And functional words like was, that, and so on, very often are pronounced in their weak form. Okay, so this is the grouping that I came up with. So on the left here, you can see a lot of examples of words where T and D went missing. In the column in the center, we see, as you mentioned, functional words, things like was, that are pronounced very weakly. It was that, and in the column on the right, there are so-called frequent chunks. By chunks, I don't mean things like collocations, like, I don't know, chain smoker. By chunks, I mean combinations of words, very often small functional words like it, was, and so on, which very, very often occur in the language, and they occur in English so often that they almost sound like an individual word now. And the important thing here is that it's completely impossible to learn to hear the word I, which is reduced to a. But it's very, very possible to learn to hear a chunk like I was or it was. So basically, it's impossible to retrain to hear just the individual pronoun, but as soon as it's part of a chunk, it becomes very easy for the learners to learn to hear it. And the last one is like miscellaneous, but we have here catenation, linking, assimilation. So, but what I have been noticing working with my learners, basically we do this type of exercise that we did at the beginning of the session a lot, and these issues to and missing, pronunciation of words like was, weak pronunciation, and these frequent chunks, they seem to to come up over and over and over again, and it doesn't really matter which variety it is. So we've done American English, we've done British English, we've done Australian English, and these features are the features that really occur extremely often in all of these varieties. And it looks like these, because they are so frequent, these are the ones that really need to be targeted with the learners. So another thing here is that a lot of these features seem to affect the pronunciation of very common grammar structures. So what features do you see here? What grammar structures could be affected by the loss of d, for instance? Past simple, yeah. And I feel that so past perfect, yeah. So what about weak pronunciation of was? What grammar structures could be affect understanding of what grammar structures could be affected by the failure to catch the word was. Here, past continuous. Here, it might be difficult to hear past continuous, passive voice. Okay, right, and I've come to believe that one of the reasons why learners, for example, at levels B1, B1 levels, have a lot of fossilized mistakes is that they still can't hear these in fast in the speech to which they are exposed to, and because they can't hear these endings and because they can't hear these weak forms of functional words, because they don't hear, for example, the s ending in plural nouns. This is one of the main reasons I feel why they actually have not only listening difficulties but also difficulties, productive difficulties, and fossilized mistakes. And I feel that unless when we target these grammatical structures with them, unless I help them to cope with this with these in authentic speech in the long run, I'm really doing them a great disservice, and they will not understand them, and they will have very big difficulty acquiring them. So looking a little bit in more, so basically for me, I feel that if we talk about syllabus, your listening syllabus, then for me, I feel there should be two big things that we're doing. So the first thing is proactively. I teach, I don't know, past simple. Do I include listening decoding activities that help my learners hear the reduced pronunciations of the endings, for example, and do I do this for every grammar topic that we cover? And the second one is reactively. If in a listening lesson, or not grammar lesson, a listening lesson, they fail to catch something here because of some intricacies of pronunciation, how do I address that there and then? So basically, for me, just to summarize, the listening syllabus could be split into grammar and the actually listening classes. So let's have a look a little bit at grammar first. So yeah, grammar makes people cry. So let's have a look at these structures. So for example, negatives: didn't, can't, shouldn't. What could happen with them in fast speech, which can prevent the learners from hearing them? What do you think? Didn't, Okay, right. Yeah, it especially with can't. I think someone wrote about it on Schoology here. So can't is very often pronounced like I can do it. Normally can mean I can't do it. T is lost, right? So and with didn't, it's even worse because it's not only the loss of t, it's also the loss of second d, and one of the most common pronunciations of didn't is did. And I personally don't know a single dictionary that actually mentions that, and I haven't seen that mentioned in the books that I work with, and this might render the word completely unrecognizable for a learner, because take any word in your language that contains 5 sounds, drop 2, the word really becomes very difficult to recognize. Okay, what about modals? What might happen with modals? Must, could, should. What can happen with their pronunciation that might render them difficult to hear for the learners? Good, good, right, yeah. Yeah, so yeah, all of them here have d and t at the end, which can be lost, and also the vowel might be very, very weak, like must, could, should. And this was one of the things that I noticed when I reached post C2 level, when I was fed up with not catching everything in the series that I was watching. At some point, I stopped the video at an utterance that I hadn't heard, and what didn't catch, it was could. It was pronounced really, really weakly. Could. What about does he and did he? This was another problem that I identified in my own as my own listening difficulty at post C2 level. Yeah, does he, did he? Again, after hundreds and maybe even thousands of hours of exposure, I personally had not trained to recognize that, because I never got any feedback. Like, I just kept missing it, and I never knew what I was missing. Okay, does and did it. The best summer, the most important, the most, what do you think? What might happen there? Best summer? Yeah. The most. Okay, so, and you can see the same happens over and over again. Like, half of these are connected to the last of t and d, right? So no rocket science at all. You don't really need to be really proficient at analyzing pronunciation to actually predict these features and these difficulties. And the last one is one of my favorites, because again, most course books don't even mention this, and a lot of speakers use expressions like all the time, and if you can't catch it, it's like you constantly hear this something disturbing that you didn't catch and you didn't decode, and it just occupies your processing capabilities and takes away your attention from actually focusing on the meaning. And this is one of the biggest problems with issues with decoding. It's not only that you missed half of the words that could help you really understand the meaning, it's also because your brain is still trying to decode, you have a lot less attention resources for actually concentrating on the meaning. And this is, for me, one of the main reasons why I actually have to help my learners to catch as much of these as possible, because they are extremely frequent, and if they start catching them more or less consistently, then boom, there is a lot more attention resources for the actual concentration on meaning. Okay, so we've looked at the issues that are very, very frequent and that, in my opinion, need to be addressed. What about like how we can do this? This could be exemplified with a story. So I've been in my current company for 4 years, and when so this is an IT company, and a lot of our clients are from the United Kingdom and from the USA. And when I just joined, I had a student who had just been promoted to the position of a project manager. And in this position, this was a new project. And what he had to do was he had to sit in on 2 hours of meetings between his UK customer and a team of designers from the United States. And so 2 hours every week, and what he had to do was he had to listen in. He wasn't an active participant, so he couldn't really like butt in all the time asking people to repeat, and he had to understand what the customer and the designers agreed in order to inform his team what to do next. And the situation was pretty tragic because he couldn't understand what was going on, and he was starting to question his abilities as a project manager. And so basically he really needed to understand them, learn to understand them, and do this really fast. He couldn't go and do like hundreds and thousands of hours of exposure to. And this guy was at upper intermediate level, so basically based on his language level, he should be able to understand at least the gist. And what happened was, at some point, his entire team stopped me in the hall and said, okay, we have a recording of one of the meetings that happened this week. Let's go, we just try to transcribe it. And we started to transcribe that meeting. And these turned out to be the words that the team couldn't catch. Even when we were replaying the recording several times. And this was the overall feeling, I think the emotion of people in that room. And I think that the reason for that was that these words are the words that everybody knows to be like elementary level, right? And I think that the learners felt that, okay, if we don't even understand elementary level words, that what does it make us? We're not even elementary, right? So after all of these years and years of studying English, and this was shocking for them and very unpleasant. And so what could I do to help them? So the first thing that I could do, and that I did, was help them to see that this is not like complete chaos and hundreds and thousands of words that they don't understand, but there is actually method to the madness, and there are patterns, like the same thing that we have done, we did with you at the beginning of the session, right? So categorize the features and see that the same things happen over and over and over again, and when you see that, you can at least start to believe that you can retrain. And then this begs a big question. So now, for example, my learners know that the word that often can be pronounced as that. Okay? And the question is, what will happen next time that they hear this word, like that, in fast speech? Are they going to hear it, or are they going to miss it again? What do you think? Miss it again? So who is in favor of they're going to hear it? Okay. So let's have a vote. Probably hear it. We'll catch it next time. Is it again? Okay. Right. So I'll just share what happened in that particular case. So at that point, 4 years ago, I didn't have a lot of listening decoding materials, but I found a tool that allowed me, based on a series, subtitles for that series, to generate several thousand files. And each file actually just, the name of each file was the words that were found in this file. So the first file, if I played it, it would say, any idea who that might be? The next file would, what was all that about, and so on, right? So, and once I had these like 10,000 files, each one 2 or 3 seconds long, I could try and train my student. So when I played the first file, any idea who that might be? And I asked him, okay, last time you didn't hear that. Now, can you hear it now? And his answer was no. It's just not in this file. There is no word that. And I played it several times, and I stopped the recording right before this word and kind of helped him to maybe hear what it was. And I played the second file. Was it there? No. Again, his answer was no. It's just not there. So I played that file again several times, stopped right before the word that, kind of helped him to make out the sounds that were that, and played the next one. And the thing was that for the few times he was just not hearing it, but the good news was that in about like 10 or 15, but by the 15th file, he started to catch it consistently. And this was actually pretty uplifting for the learner. And this really corresponds to all my experience since then. So just to summarize, just awareness of the feature doesn't really make you more likely to catch the words with this feature next time. And in order to learn to catch them, you need training. And by training, I mean repeated exposure to the same feature with instant feedback. And if you get that kind of task, then chances are you will progress coping with this feature pretty quickly. So just to summarize, we've looked at 2 types of activities. The first one where the learners, for example, transcribe and analyze what they can't catch is a diagnostic activity. And the second one where they listen to just one feature is a training activity. And in my experience, there are things that are very important about to achieve for the teacher for these activity types. So if you look at the diagnostic activities, I feel that this is a moment when a lot of people tend to get frustrated, and they really need a lot of help from the teacher, and the help should come in multiple senses. So if you remember at the beginning when we were doing the transcription work, we listened to the utterance over and over and over again, right? So one of the ways in which a teacher can help is to allow the learners to hear several times. Then I was also highlighting the sounds that were that underwent some changes, and grouping the sounds, grouping the words with the same feature together. So this is visual support, and crossing things out on the board and grouping examples together, visual support. Another thing that really helps is actually explaining to the learners what's going on. So, for example, it doesn't have to be like professional and you don't have to go into a lot of detail, but things like, for example, that. I could ask my students to pronounce that a few times, and then I could ask them, okay, now say the same thing, but don't let out air. That. And kind of this really shows them how this might happen, that t is not there for them to hear. And another thing that I've done is, for example, as you. Why do they pronounce as, not as you, but as you? And I ask my learners, okay, when you say as, where is your tongue? And so as, the tongue is here, right? Z, z, z. And yeah, where does it touch? The roof, here. As you. But when we say it fast, it's like crazy gymnastics, so they go for the middle, as you. This kind of explanation, in my experience, kind of demystifies the chaos and helps the learners to kind of calm down a bit. And the last thing that really can help is pronouncing the expressions, not with the aim to actually, with the pronunciation aim here. So I kind of stress it to the learners that they shouldn't aim to speak like that unless their aim is to actually acquire that accent. But research shows that after playing with this pronunciation and saying it a few times, you kind of send the right signals to your brain, and it gets easier for you to actually hear it, even if you don't aim to speak like that in the long term. Okay, so these for me are the big important issues with decoding activities. These are the things that I try to achieve when we with awareness raising activities. And with training activities, it's just really simple, just multiple examples of one phenomenon with instant feedback. And the only question is how to achieve that if my course book doesn't provide such activities. So, this was just an overview. Let's have a look at some activities. And the first one is actually the activity that we did at the very beginning. And this is something that I do with my learners very, very often in listening lessons, not grammar, but listening lessons. So let's reconstruct this activity. At what point, so in the lesson, do you think the teacher might do it? So again, we were watching an interview with Leonardo DiCaprio, and then at some point we started to fill in some gaps. When would we do this? After the gist, after the second listening, okay, right? Post-listening, here. Yeah, I agree with you. So for me, the most important thing is not to start with this here. So first to get the learners to process the video for meaning, maybe do some pre-listening activities, listen for gist or listen more for specific information for detail several times. That even maybe do the post-listening activity and then come back, so I don't know, some speaking, right? And then come back to do this type of work. Okay? Yeah, I agree. At the end of listening or before the production activity. So now let's reconstruct the activity itself. Here, what's the procedure? Can you type, think back what we did and type what you think the procedure was? With higher levels, could it be done before listening? Okay, well, people are typing. I don't think it should. We will look at an example of an activity that does this before listening. I normally avoid doing that because I feel that this activity is frustrating and the learners respond better to it after they've already experienced kind of the success of understanding, at least for gist. So if I just dump it on their head and the first thing they know about the speaker is that they can't understand every single word even after I have replayed it 5 times, this really might be demotivating. So first gist, and I have to find a video that they will understand for gist here. So if it's way above their head, it's just not going to work. But if they've understood it and experienced some type of success with that, then they respond better to this kind of decoding work. Okay, so we have like listening for gist, then fill in the gaps, and then spot the phenomena. Here, basically what I had, right? So here, students fill the gaps in one sentence. So think back, did I play the whole, all 3 sentences, or just one sentence, and why? So fill the gaps in all 3 sentences, or fill the gaps in one sentence? One. Why do you think in one and not like in all of them? Why didn't I just ask you, okay, here are 3 sentences, first fill all the gaps and then let's analyze? Not to overwhelm. Okay, this is one reason. Another very important reason for me is that the first one is probably going to be like very challenging, but after we've analyzed it and after I've helped them with the pronunciation of these words, the second one is going to be less challenging. They've already received a little bit of training, and the third one is going to be less challenging, and so on, right? So basically, like the feedback they got after the first one really helps them with the second one. And if I don't give them that feedback, they feel no progress and it's just frustration. So yeah, one sentence, then I listed all ideas and board them and reveal the answer. And after they already know the answer, we listen again and analyze the pronunciation. Who actually says which features there are in the words? The students or the teacher? Yeah, the students. And do we need to use? Do we have to use the terminology, things like assimilation, elision, that kind of thing? So do we need the terminology at this point? Okay, Veronica says she wouldn't use it. What about everybody else? Yeah, so you basically don't need the terminology. They just tell you which sounds are missing, and you cross them out on the board, giving them the visual support, and that's it. And then the procedure, then we listen again, and we repeat formal sentences. Here, as simple as that. So this is one activity. Just going back to the support. So in what form does the listening support come? In the form of listening over and over and over again. They can hear the sentence several times as they transcribe. And then they hear the expressions isolated if possible when they're analyzing the pronunciation. And then a crucial step is to play the thing again after everything has been analyzed. Why do I need to play it again? See the whole picture, bigger picture? Yeah. And one more important reason is that this is the point when they are actually going to be hearing everything, and this is a big psychological booster here. So if they were demotivated on the previous stage, now at this point, this is going to be like a motivator for them. Okay. Yeah, enjoy the results, exactly. So, understanding. Well, I explained how I do that, so I might just explain why some of these features can happen. Visual support, in what form does the visual support come here? How about now? in what form does the visual support come here again? Visual support in this activity. In what form? Yeah, so creating out the signs and also building up. I allocate part of the board, like 1/3 of the board, and over the whole activity I build up, like in one part of the board I put all the examples where to and do were missing. In another part, all the weak forms. In another part, all examples with linking, and so on. And so over the course of the activity, they can see that some patterns are emerging. Yeah, and sometimes they might pronounce things. Okay, so this was activity number 1. And what does the teacher need to do to prepare for this activity? How much preparation is involved? Okay. You can do it with any audio, basically. You can even do this with, you don't need crowd recordings. So basically for me, what I need is, I need the transcript with gaps. That's the only thing I need. And with levels like A2 and B1, transcript with gaps, and B2, I will just say, okay, let's transcribe the whole thing, because I can replay the sentences like with basically any kind of software, right? And if I can replay, they can analyze the pronunciation. But if you're doing the tasks on Schoology, you might also have seen EGSUB, and EGSUB allows you to replay parts of the recording on the spot. So if I feel that I really need to replay something like Anda, I can locate it on the spot with EGSUB. So no audio editing is required at all, only the transcript with gaps. Which words were gapped out in the transcript, by the way? Yeah, function words. Yeah, things like that. So basically not content words, because this would turn into vocabulary activity, but function words. Basically, like, what I need to do is listen to the video once before the lesson, highlight where I can hear these features of connected speech, gap them out, and this becomes my activity. So no more preparation. The next one. I'm going to post this into the chat box. So this is just 1 minute. 1 minute demonstration by Rai Willoughby from IH London, and the questions are the same. So what is the procedure, and what preparation does the teacher need to do? So just a second. Here is the link. Please watch it and then type the procedure and the preparation. Okay, right. So she encourages the use of grammatical cues here. So yeah, she gets their ideas, puts all of them on the board, and then this becomes a listening discrimination exercise, like minimal pairs, but it's based entirely on what the learners heard. Okay, and then they can also analyze grammar, and kind of she scaffolds other types of processing, like using the grammar cues. What preparation did she need to do this? Okay, you don't really need to cut it up, really, because again, even with the most basic audio player, you can replay small bit of the audio. And here, so she just counted the words, put the blanks on the board, and you can do this with any audio you use. At what point of the lesson again? Where would it happen? Yeah, she accepts all the options here. Post listening again, right? So maybe like after listening for detail, maybe the bit which was the most problematic, the question that the learners couldn't answer, maybe that would be the bit that they would transcribe word for word. Okay, and so this allows you to react to their difficulties on the spot. So let's have a look at another activity, and in this activity it's similar in a way. The thing that it comes from Mark Rooney from Monash College in Australia, and what he does is he has a course book audio, and he has a task where, in theory, the course book asks the learners to come up with just one word answer. But he says, okay, let's tweak the task. Can you please write not just the word, but the part of the sentence that gives you the answer. So, so this kind of becomes a transcription activity, right? Because the learners need to write part of the sentence, but it's totally incorporated into the coursebook activity. So I'm going to post the link, and again, so the first thing that I want you to do is you can see right now the screenshot from the lesson. What types of support can you already see him giving the learners? Can you see any type of support? Visual? In what form? Yeah, so here, so he boards all the answers and highlights some of the sounds there. Okay, so watch the 3-minute clip and notice his procedure and any other types of support that he gives. So Veronica has already posted the link, just in case, one more time. Okay. Right. So, what kinds of support do you notice? Any things to steal from Mark? So, what kinds of support does he give the learners? So, for example, listening. How many times do they listen to this recording? Quite a few, right? Okay. Accepting their ideas and putting them as options. Here again and again, we can see this. Written support, visual support. Do they pronounce these words? Yeah, they do. They compare. Okay, right. And also, an interesting thing here is that the teacher can give the training on the spot, right? Even though it's in a slightly different accent, but still. Why does he close his? Why does he cover his mouth? What's the point in covering his mouth like this? Yeah, so that they really have to rely on their ears. Okay, and again, where does this come in the lesson? Okay, so either post-listening, but for him, again, this was just part of the listening for detail activity because the learners were answering the questions in the course book task, but writing more than one word. Okay, so the next activity is, okay, the procedure here. I think you got it. Let's go on to the next one. And this one is by Michael Greenberg, who is actually here with us today. He has made a recording demonstrating the activity. So again, we're going to post the link and watch it, enjoy it, and just think about what procedure and what preparation you would need to do it.
Type in the exact fragments of the text that you hear into the chat box. If you watch
Okay, right, so what do you think? So first of all, I've posted the link to Michael's site, and it's also available on Schoology if you want to get in touch with him and get his slides. So what type of preparation would you need to do to run this activity? What do you think? Can you hear me right now? Okay, prepare a transcript, right? You have to select chunks. The thing here is, Vera, if you use again EGSUB and open your audio in EGSUB, you can replay chunks on the spot without any preparation at all. Right, so all you need to do is the transcript, and then you replay your random chunks, and that's it. And the value is that if, like, I think this is a fantastic activity for the reason that it's kind of easier than the activity we did at the beginning, because the learners can see the text, and this is the support for them. But very often when they can see the text, what happens, there's been research that immediately the brain supplies the pronunciation that you expect, right? But because you're not necessarily playing individual words, and you play things without boundaries, the brain can't do that. It really has to listen to what exactly you're playing. So so on the one hand, there is this visual support with the text, and on the other hand, the brain doesn't switch off and actually has to listen. And this is here amazing. It's difficult to stop the audio quickly, but in each sub you just choose the extract and replay it as many times as you wish. Okay, so we have to skip one more activity because we are running out of time badly. It's available on Schoology if you want to check it out. Let's talk a little bit about training activities. The first one, I can't demonstrate it because I can't actually control the audio, but it's really simple. So all you do is you stop the tape you play the audio that you've been working with, and you stop the tape, and the learners need to talk to each other and recall the last 4 or 5 words. So at what points would you stop the tape? What do you think? Like at random points, or could there be some principle where to stop it? Okay, after function words, for example. So for me, again, as I'm listening to this video for the first time, I try to isolate. For example, I can hear that there is a lot of t and d dropping, and then I would stop the tape when I hear an example of that, right? And this is like a very cost-effective way, time-effective way to produce a training activity without any audio preparation at all. And again, you can do it with any audio that you have, course book audio, video without subtitles, anything really. So no preparation, and not necessarily at pauses. Well, yeah, I agree, Jonathan. At pauses, but also after you hear a particular feature, and maybe after multiple examples of the same feature to give learners training. Okay, the next one is, again, stop the tape, but instead of recalling what was before, the learners need to decide what comes after. So In a second, please play this audio and type what you think, which part of speech comes next, and if you have an idea what word comes next, also type that. A noun, okay, noun phrase. Yeah. Right. So listen and check. So who called the word? Daredevil. Yeah. Okay. Can you listen to this extract again and do the same activity? Can you guess now what part of speech comes after the last word in this extract? And can you guess the word? Okay. Right, so dolphins or sharks, at least in down, right? Listen and check. Okay. Search form, and you can click and check. So what was the word that was? Okay, jumped, right? And what comes after the last word in this extract? So jumped out is the last word. What about the next word after, the one that you haven't heard yet? Okay, a play, maybe, right? So play and check. So here it is. Okay, right. So again, what preparation do you need to do this activity in class? As a teacher, what do you need to do? Yeah, nothing. I would say it's difficult to do with a regular audio player because it's difficult to stop the recording between words. But if I have things like Aegis-up, again, you can see the pauses and you can see where the boundaries are. So you don't really need to cut up the audio. You just need Aegis-up again, and then you can easily stop in the right places, and it's really easy to do. Okay, right? You don't need to write down you just can see, okay, somewhere there it looks like the word ends here. I'm going to play that part. You play it a couple of times, and then you play a little bit further, and that's it here. So no preparation at all. So another activity type is grammar hunt. What do you think this might be? Grammar hunt. What would be the activity? Search for examples of structure here. So we're not going to do it, but basically the task would be listen again and write down all examples of verbs in past simple. Right, and they listen one time, and the second time they listen, you stop after these verbs and replay those bits. And again, this is like an easy training activity that targets grammar. Okay, and another one is grammar sorting. So it's very similar, but they concentrate not just on one structure, but on several structures, and they write examples in appropriate columns. And the last thing, really the last thing that I will show you is something that how can technology help us with creating this. So basically, one thing that people I can see were worried about is how do I replay the sentence here? It might be difficult. So thank God there is YouTube, and on YouTube there is a thing that's called interactive transcript. So if you click under the video on these three dots, you will see that there is a transcript. Very often, for most of the videos on YouTube, there is transcript. For some of them, it's human produced, like very good quality transcript. For some of this, for some of them, they're automatic captions. But for most of the videos, it is there. And the thing is, it is interactive. And by interactive, I mean if I click on the line, it's gonna reposition the video, and when I play, it's gonna play from that line. So this makes it ideal for things like dictations, transcription work, and stuff like that. And even if the transcript is bad, it still allows you to replay the line several times. So this is a godsend, really. And another thing that you can do when you have interactive transcript, you can use browser search, Control F, and for example, look for the word was. And you can see here the browser highlights all the examples of the word was in your transcript, and you can replay just those sentences, and this gives you an instant training activity. And for example, my intermediate learners, I could ask, okay, do you hear it was or I was? And it's pretty easy to differentiate between the two, and this gives them a very simple activity, a training activity that I can create on the spot without any audio editing. So it is. So what about if we have bad transcripts? So again, the situation has been changing like dramatically, and basically, it's really easy to find audios that actually have good transcripts. So all you need to do is in the search, you write your search term, the comma, and space and CC. And if you add comma space CC, all the audios all the videos that are returned will have good transcripts produced by a human being. And basically, also, if you already have a video and you can see that there is transcript, how do you check? Is it good or not? So if it says English automatic captions, then it's bad. But if it says anything apart from that, English UK, anything here, then it was produced by a person and uploaded. So, and I would say that 4 years ago, when I was first running those courses, listening courses, it was pretty difficult for me to find material on YouTube, but the growth is like exponential. And now there are hundreds of thousands of hours, I think, of well subscribed material, and we're just spoiled for choice here. It is just really amazing. So, and the last thing that I wanted to show you is this service that I have been working on. It's called Tube Quizzard. And they're basically, it's like a gap fill service. So here is a quiz that a typical quiz. You can see the transcript, but again, the transcript is clickable. Any line is clickable, and there are gaps. And the learners just need to listen to the line and type in what they hear, and then they can check and get this instant feedback. And what we can do, so here is an example of what the quiz looks like after it's been done, and you can see that here I'm focusing on present perfect here. So the learners basically are listening to multiple examples of present perfect and training. This is a training task where they need to hear the pronunciation of have, and if the verbs are regular, they need to adjust to the ed ending. So, and what we do is there is also this train with your video tab, and if you have found a video on YouTube that has subtitles, then we run, you can insert the link into that box, and we run it past our filters and create like a lot of quizzes. We just isolate, like find examples of past continuous and create a gap fill on past continuous, find all the contractions and create a gap fill on contractions, and so on. So, basically, like it takes 2 seconds to find a video just using CC on YouTube, and then insert it into this window and get a lot of quizzes. And for me, what I've been finding is that I've been using this in this tool in 3 like very important ways. So the first thing for me is if we study grammar with the learners, I will go and find a video that contains examples of that grammar, and now like I just do not leave the learners without this practice of understanding grammar, catching grammar in real speech. Here we study the passives. I go and find a video with the passives. They do a quiz. We study comparatives. They do a quiz on comparatives. I just give them this. This has become part of my listening syllabus, just 100%. Another thing is, if my learner, for example, has fossilized mistakes, like if they forget third person s all the time, I will just assign them a quizzes where they need to hear this third person s. Or if we were working with some kind of video in class, I will tell them, okay, there are some automatically generated quizzes. Please choose those ones that where you may tend to make mistakes yourself. And as I said, I feel that this kind of highlights the feature in input for them, helps them hear it better, and I hope that this helps them with acquisition. And the last thing that we do is whenever I try to use the videos from YouTube for all my listening classes, but I go for those videos that do have subtitles, and if we diagnosed some issues with my learners during this transcription stage, then I can easily build a quiz on the same issues to do either in class or for them on their own. So basically, as I mentioned at the beginning, I can give the learners decoding practice tied to grammar, but also I can give them decoding practice tied to the videos that we worked with in the listening tasks, in the listening classes. So, but this unfortunately can only be done for YouTube videos. So if you have a coursebook video, that won't work. So that's it. That's everything I had to share. I'm really sorry for overrunning. I think there were quite a few questions. Okay, here, Veronica is going to copy the questions. How do I look for a video with a particular grammar aspect? I will just first address Tatiana's last question. If you go to TubeQuizard and go to the search with subtitles, can you please open this link, search with subtitles? Then you will see that there are filters. Grammar for listeners, for example, I can click on grammar for listeners and see like present simple. And also I can choose a channel, for example, educational. And I can choose, and I can type, I want something that, a video that has like at least 7 examples of questions. And then the tool is going to run for some time and it will find videos that contain a lot of examples of that grammar. So for me, this is one of the ways in which I find examples that target just that grammar. Okay, there will be a tutorial on Schoology, so if this is what you want to do, then the tutorial explains how to do that. So, Ekaterina Ushakova, could it be because they've been taught to say the disjointed pronunciation rather than the real life form? I guess so, yeah, and but the thing is, learners really need training tasks, not just decoding tasks, not just awareness raising tasks, training tasks. And unless, if they are not in the course books, I feel that I have to somehow supply, because otherwise, even if they are aware, it's still going to be difficult for them to catch. Especially, I don't know, I'm a Russian speaker of English, right? So my pronunciation is easier for them to understand and to adjust to than, I don't know, American. So, or if they need to adjust to an Indian accent, I will go and look for videos in Indian accent and so on. Okay, Veronica, can you, okay. What comes first, listening and speaking? They don't pronounce them themselves, they won't catch them. That's, I don't think it's true, because nobody speaks with, like, you either speak with American or British or your own accent, but we generally, like, as expert listeners, we understand most the standard accents, right? So you don't have to be pronouncing it in order to understand this, but I think you need to receive some training. What English sounds do Russian native speakers? I would say that, Ron, just not. This is not because of the problems are not with individual sounds. The problems come with there are some features of connected speech, and when the expectation is different from reality. Here, so things like elision of t and d. Things like weak forms and stuff like that. And this is probably not just typical for exclusively Russian speakers. This could be like across the board. But of course, for some, so if you're talking about like individual phonemes, right, for example, the example like Korean learners might have difficulty differentiating between L and R, that kind of thing, then we can talk about like vowels here, so things like ship and sheep. But really at B1 for B1 learners, this is not an issue. The features of connected speech is an issue in my experience. What is really time-consuming to engineer some sort of systems so that there is a logical progression from session to session? Yeah, listening syllabus. I would say, again, for me, like the way it's working out right now is I have grammar lessons, and I have decoding work tied to the grammar topics that we're doing. And then in every listening lesson, we have a little bit of diagnostic activity where they transcribed and see what this particular group, which words this particular group can't catch in this particular speaker's pronunciation. And then we target those issues that we analyzed and diagnosed during the types of activities that I showed. And basically, I think that there is a blend here. On the one hand, it allows me to really cater for the needs of the individual group, but on the other hand, I'm noticing that the same features reoccur over and over and over again. So things like, again, as I said, like elision, weak forms, chunks, and what happens is we address these several times, I don't know, 5 to 10 times, and then I can see that the learners show really great progress in understanding like standard authentic speech, I would say. So it's just like the syllabus emerges just because there are very frequent features. Okay. Quiz results. Unfortunately, for now, all I asked my learners just to let me know what their results were. Extracting phrases. I think something like sub to. I have to look it up. Here, I will look it up and I will post on Schoology because I'm not sure what the name was because it was like 4 years ago. Okay. So. Quiz results, no, as I said, for now, unfortunately, no. Okay. So, if you have any questions, please feel free to post them on Schoology. I'll be moderating actively this week. And if you have any feedback for me, also please post it there. And I'm really looking forward to seeing your work in the next week. And let me just say, it's been an immense pleasure working with you guys, and this is my last chance to say this like in person. You're an amazing group of teachers, and I wish you every success in your teaching. So this is not the final goodbyes because we still have a week to work together, but this is my last chance to say it in person. Thank you. Okay, terribly sorry for overrunning, so I think we could stop now, right? And say bye-bye. Thank you. And thanks a lot, Veronica, for helping out today. You've been really, really, really helpful. Yeah, I wouldn't cope without you. Okay, I'm stopping the recording and saying bye-bye.